Charlie Kirk is dead. That is the headline, and for many that is also the entire emotional arc. This isn't necessarily because people knew him, but because many knew of him. People watched him, followed him, some hated him, others loved him. Many also memed him. And now, in our hyper-real theater of digital grief, many on the right mourn him, like one would a fallen prophet. Or they rage at those who would dare mock Charlie Kirk after his death. This whole assassination was a rupture and a grand parasocial contract, and furthermore a means to continue culture war rhetoric for clicks and algorithmic appeasement. Never let a good death go to waste, guys. Gotta collect those donos after all. And in a world saturated with heroes who are contractually obliged to return for the sequel, Kirk's death hits a bit differently. For the audience has been trained to expect resurrection, not finality. We've been told to expect some kind of a workaround, but unfortunately, this assassination does not come with a post-credits scene. There's no alternate timeline here, there's no reboot. All you get is confusion, frustration, and a digital crowd scrambling to perform grief with the only tools that we've ever been given. An X account, a YouTube account, etc. Online, the response has been predictably unhinged. Radicalization confessions flood comment sections. People scream at the left as if an amorphous blob of progressive ideology personally pulled the trigger. It's cathartic and deeply performative. But as I've long since talked about on my channel, the digital space does not just amplify your emotions, it also distorts them. So you get people crying in front of cameras and boom, your mourning becomes new content, your outrage becomes monetized. Now let's be clear on something here. Charlie Kirk was a human being, like the rest of us. A real human being. He had a body, a voice, and a set of beliefs. He was also a dispensationalist. He echoed the same boomer eschatology where you bet on Israel like a doomsday stockbroker waiting for the rapture dividend.
I'm very sympathetic towards the dispensationalist view. So let me just pause you. This is going to go over a lot of people's head. Okay. So if it's okay, let's keep this short, if that's okay, because this is a very wonky theological topic. But yes, more the view I'm sympathetic towards is that the scriptures are very prophetic towards a literal and direct meaning, and that the nation and the reconstitution of the nation of Israel actually has a place in God's plan for us on this planet. It's not a metaphorical, it's a literal playing out of God's plan.
Yeah, Christianity is fire insurance. You pay your premiums and culture war rhetoric and wait for the world to burn. Anyway, I didn't feel much when I heard the news of his death. Not because death isn't tragic, of course, but because the emotional economy surrounding him was already bankrupt. His politics were bad for America. His influence was parasitic. His death does not redeem any of that. And yet this whole digital mourning machine spins on, demanding your sympathy, demanding blame, demanding a narrative that flatters the audience's own ideological posturing. And so the cycle continues. The attack becomes a referendum on the left. Meanwhile, any actual cause will be ignored. Toucan theology, death cult nationalism will all remain untouched. And as has been the case for a long time now, we will be left to scream at shadows, and not the architects. And that is the cost of parasocial politics. Because when identity is outsourced to avatars, when belief is reduced to spectacle, death just becomes another episode. End of season 1, now for season 2. And the audience, ever loyal, ever performative, will just keep watching. Give it time. As people's blood cools and the rage fades, the old tribal fractures will reassert themselves. And the right, momentarily unified here in grief and vengeance, will then resume its civil war. The performative unity will dissolve into petty factionalism. Libertarians versus nationalists, populists versus institutionalists. And Charlie Kirk, now canonized, will become a rhetorical cudgel. Charlie Kirk would have supported me, not you. His legacy will be ventriloquized by every faction, each claiming his ghost as ideological proof of life. Meanwhile, the left will remain the convenient bogeyman. That's easy. They've been humiliated by Trump's victory and by the flailing spectacle of Biden and Harris in the past, so they're not a threat, they're a foil. Blaming them requires no risk, no introspection, but the real substance of the right's momentum are the center-right. Those who fetishize balance, those who talk about incomplete pendulum swings and bipartisan brunches. These are the real gatekeepers of stasis. These are the ones who will quietly stymie any radical shift, all the while posing as allies to the right. So yes, ultimately this assassination was shocking. And yes, the reactions were loud, but nothing will happen. And here's the hardest pill for anyone to swallow here, because it means all your anger and rage right now, it's for nothing. Because if this shooter had professional hallmarks, then this wasn't just some random instance of leftist violence. This was strategic, including the fact that the shooter got away and the FBI ended up arresting patsies instead. Now we could speculate that there's a deep state operation going on, right? But the thing about that is, who is president right now? Trump is president. So if this is a deep state operation, then there's no way he wouldn't know who is responsible for it. Ultimately, what I'm saying here is just chalking this up to the left lashing out doesn't add up. This was something else. Something internal, something calculated. A warning perhaps to other right-wing speakers. Shut up or disappear. And if that's the case, then the question isn't who killed Charlie Kirk, it's who benefits from Charlie Kirk's silence. And yes, I've seen voices online are claiming Kirk was starting to notice, like he was having his anti-Semitic awakening. He was finally calling out Jewish influence, guys.
We've pushed back against the media on COVID, on lockdowns, on Ukraine, on the border, so maybe we should also ask a question. Is the media totally presenting the truth when it comes to Israel? Just a question, that maybe we shouldn't believe everything the media says, because I know I've been conditioned to ask a lot more critical questions over the last couple of years. So Ben, some people would accuse Israel of wanting to ethnically cleanse. Some people in the Israeli government are saying, again, it's all over the place, right? You have opinions all over. In your opinion, what would a good outcome 5 years from now be, and how does one respond to the claims of ethnic cleansing?
No, this is a misread. Kirk's views were not evolving. What you need to understand here is that the American public's views on Israel were evolving, and Kirk had to rise to meet those concerns. Because in order to remain effective as controlled opposition, you need to recalibrate.
Charlie Kirk, of course, for all of us who know him, who knew him, remembered for so many things today. And one of them is his staunch support of Israel. He visited in 2018, I remember. That was the first time I met him. It was at the U.S. Embassy after it had moved to Jerusalem from Tel Aviv. That was one of then President Trump's first term decisions. And Charlie was there also the following year, supporting Israel's war against Hamas and against the anti-Semitism that followed. Watch.
When we as Christians go to Israel, we are celebrated and treated like the most amazing you could ever imagine. Okay? Israel changed my life. When I went to Israel, I was reading Bible stories my whole life as a committed Christian. And all of a sudden, I had a life-changing experience. The nation of Israel actually has a place in God's plan for us on this planet. There's something special about Israel, and I think we have a moral commitment to that land. The Israeli community has been very welcoming of us as Christians and our faith, the homeland.
And it will not go unnoticed. The Israeli Foreign Ministry said this morning Charlie Kirk was a steadfast friend of Israel and a true ally of the Jewish people. He stood proudly for the Judeo-Christian values which bind Israel and America. And Charlie's fearless commitment to truth and freedom cost him his life. Violence may have taken him, but it cannot silence his legacy. May his memory be a blessing. The Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, in focus now. Prime Minister, you have your own memories of Charlie Kirk. Please share them.
Well, Harris, before I do that, I have to say that we're just heartbroken. Myself, my wife, my family, my son, actually, on his 2019 visit to Israel, had lunch with him and his wife, Erica. We're shattered first as human beings because a great human being has been taken from us. Was an extraordinary friend. He said, he wrote me a letter on May 2nd this year. He said, one of my greatest joys as a Christian is advocating for Israel and forming alliances to defend Judeo-Christian civilization. A few weeks before the tragedy yesterday, I called him and I spoke to him and I said, please come to Israel. I invited him to Israel. And sadly, that visit will not take place. But he was a defender of our common Judeo-Christian civilization. He was unbelievably excited to walk in the footsteps of Jesus here. He valued our bond, the bond between America and Israel. He did so many things to defend free speech. He had his truth. He stood up for it. But he said, you can come and debate me. He invited that debate. He certainly didn't invite the violence, the horrible violence that tried to silence him. And you know, this is a worldwide problem. The people on the extremes, the Islamists, the radical Islamists, and their union with the ultra progressives, they often speak about human rights. They speak about free speech, but they use violence to try to take down their enemies. Whether it's President Trump, who's been almost assassinated twice, or they try to kill me here too. But they got Charlie Kirk, and it's just heartbreaking.
You know, the young people in both our countries look to him, and I don't know what is being said with regard to that right now in Israel, but I am curious. I mean, he is a beacon for so many in his young generation. Your last quick thought.
Look, sometimes people can be irreplaceable. Charlie was 31 years old. He was a great hero of our common roots and common culture. My own brother, my older brother, was 30 years old when he died trying to successfully rescuing Israeli hostages that were held by German and Arab terrorists in Entebbe, Uganda. And I often I thought about my brother all my life, and I think of Charlie. I'll be thinking of Charlie all my life. You know, they're gone, and maybe they're once in a generation, but generations then live by their legacy.
Amen to that. Prime Minister Netanyahu, grateful for your time today and your memories and your love for Charlie Kirk. Thank you.
Thank you, Harris. Thank you.
So this shift wasn't based on some revelation, as people like to posit. No, this was strategic. And what I suspect is that Kirk's rhetoric was carefully modulated by his Zionist handlers to redirect rising anger towards Israel as a state, but not toward Jews as a people. Now, this doesn't mean they aren't the ones who killed him. That's still a possibility. And the reason for that would be that an asset is more valuable as a martyr than as a spokesman. A dead man can't contradict a narrative. He can't drift, he can't defect. So instead, he becomes a symbol, usable, moldable, and eternal. And what's more, looks like we got old Ben Shapiro stepping up to pick up the microphone in his place.
Charlie's voice is not silent. We're going to pick up that blood-stained microphone where Charlie left it. And to those who would intimidate, who would seek to stop us, who would seek to end free discussion, who believe that they have ownership over public spaces and can violently threaten and kill people who speak freely, we are not going to stop. And I have two words: fuck you. We will not stop telling the truth. We will never stop telling the truth. We will never stop debating and discussing. We will never stop standing up for what America is and for what she should be. And we will never let Charlie Kirk's voice die.
How about that? So what's the moral of this story? Nothing ever happens. The spectacle consumes the substance. New memes are generated. People renew their petty online hatreds for another go at each other, and the machine grinds on.